If you're seeing this on YouTube, you are seeing the live replay. I'm currently live on TikTok answering astrology and metaphysical questions. So let's see what questions that people have for us today. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology or metaphysical questions. So if you guys have questions about your natal charts or astrology in general, feel free to comment below. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology or metaphysical questions. So if you guys have any questions about astrology or your natal charts in general, feel free to comment below. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology or metaphysical questions. So if you guys have questions about your natal charts, feel free to comment below. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology or metaphysical questions. If you guys have questions about astrology or your natal charts, feel free to comment below. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology or metaphysical questions. If you guys have questions about your natal charts, feel free to comment below, or questions about astrology in general. Welcome to all the people joining. If you guys have questions about your natal charts, astrology in general, you guys can feel free to comment below. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions or metaphysical questions. If you guys have questions about your natal charts, feel free to comment below. Will your finances get better? That's hard to say. I'd have to look at your entire natal chart and even the transits to see what's going on with that. Welcome to all the people joining. If you guys have questions about your natal charts or astrology, feel free to comment below. Cancer rising, what's March looking like for you? I'm not answering psychic questions. I'm answering questions about your natal chart. So feel free to comment below if you have questions about astrology or your natal charts. Okay, so for Sri Baby, you said Cancer rising, what is March looking like for you? Hey Erica, how are you doing? March. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so happy you are there on my channel. Happy to have you here now too. Do you have any questions about your natal chart or astrology? Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions or questions about your natal charts or metaphysical questions. If you guys have any, feel free to comment below. Yes, you do. You said, what does it mean if you have Pluto conjunct Moon in the 8th house of Scorpio? Oh my gosh, are you a Scorpio Moon too? So that basically means that it's just going to be a lot of transformation for you on an emotional level. And also you could probably have mediumship abilities as well. I mean, I see your name. You said you do tarot in your name. So definitely you're gonna have mediumship abilities. Yes, yeah. When you have Moon conjunct Pluto, especially in the sign of Scorpio, like that's just like every experience is Plutonian. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're always looking for depth in situations. You're always looking in depth within people. Like you can't have things be surface level. Tarot, yes, you're gonna try to tap into your mediumship. Yes. Okay. For people who are interested in tapping into their mediumship, the way that you can go about it is like, well, first what you want to do is figure out what your own energy is. And then it's like, the way that I see it is like you have clairsentience, and then mediumship is another form of clairsentience. You're basically tapping into energies that aren't technically here. So it really is just a matter of like mastering your energy and then like tapping into like the subtleties around you. Welcome to all the people joining. Hello, Mr. Debonhire, how are you doing? I'm answering astrology or metaphysical questions or questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Yeah, no worries, for sure. If you have 8th house energy in your natal chart, like I almost want to say even if you have 1 placement, but overall if you have 2 or 3, you're definitely going to have mediumship abilities, and just going to be a matter of like honing in on that. Hey, A, how are you doing? I'm answering astrology questions or metaphysical questions or questions about your natal charts if you guys have any questions. So feel free to comment below. But yeah, that's all like, it's all about like shifting, right? You're kind of like shifting out of like the logical into the psychic when you're basically like getting in tune with any of your psychic gifts and abilities. Do you guys have any questions about your natal charts, astrology, metaphysics, psychic world, psychic life? You have Mars and Mercury in the 11th house, so you're going to be very much ahead of your time. When you have Mercury in the 11th house, it's like you want to talk about things that actually matter, things that are like higher level, things like, you know, astrology, all these sorts of things. So you're going to have to figure out a way to like ground that information so like the everyday person can understand. You were just pulling up your natal chart. Okay, cool. Yes, awesome. Definitely pull it up. And if you have questions, just message below. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm doing astrology or metaphysics questions, also natal chart questions. So if you guys have questions about your natal charts, feel free to comment below. Mars in the 11th house, basically what motivates you is going to be things that are futuristic. It can even be technology. It can even be the internet. It can even be apps. Anything that's futuristic. It could even be AI, like things like this. Welcome to all the people joining. If you guys have questions about your natal charts, feel free to comment below. Lilith in Pisces in the 12th house. Okay, so when we look at Lilith, you kind of have to look at the dark side of that particular sign. So you want to see what the dark side of Pisces is and what's the dark side of the 12th house. Very, very similar. What I will say, when you have 12th house anywhere, you're basically carrying it over from a past life into this lifetime. So basically there's like shadow traits that maybe you weren't able to integrate in a past life. Maybe they controlled you. They're coming through in this lifetime. So Lilith and Pisces can be anything to do with escapism. Escapism is on a huge range. It can be addiction. It can be escaping through work. It can be escaping through the mind. It can be escaping through the metaphysical planes, like not wanting to be present in the physical. So those could be a few things that take place. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm just going to go in order, so feel free to comment below if you guys have any questions about your natal charts. Okay, Erica said Mars and Jupiter conjunct in the 12th house of Pisces. What does this mean? You have Mars and Jupiter conjunct in the 12th house of Pisces. Okay, are they both in Pisces? Mars and Pisces is a little bit more of a struggle. What I will say for Mars and Pisces, it's like very good when you are trying to manifest something and you're trying to bring something through, but you're going to have to learn to contain that energy. That's another thing with Pisces. Like Pisces energy is always unconsciously looking to be led. Like they're always kind of looking for someone to tell them what to do, or like say like go in this direction. They're looking for the container. So when you have this energy in your natal chart, and even for the individual with the Lilith and Pisces, you have to kind of learn to contain that for yourself, basically working on the masculine energy within. Because the thing is, Mars in Pisces in the 12th house is going to be so good at manifesting, because like what you see in your mind is like so real. You just have to basically channel it. You have to like direct it somewhere. That's really what it is. And then Jupiter's expanding that for you, basically making you like really, really lucky in that particular area. Okay, so this is for THIUF or THIUVFDD. You have Lilith in the 6th house. So in that situation, when you have Lilith in the 6th house, you might put other people ahead of yourself. You might be overly critical of people around you. Like those are all things that you're going to have to integrate. I find sometimes 6th house energy is interesting because 6th house and 12th house bounce off of each other. So what can happen with the 6th house is like they can also go into isolation energy in terms of their mind, and they're just like overthinking everything, and they can kind of get to the point where it's like they're super critical of the world because they've spent too much time in like the shadow oppositional energy of being in isolation. So for 6th house, what like I can suggest is like spending time to be around people, and like basically like the thing is you're always going to be striving for perfection, but you're kind of learning that like perfection doesn't exist. So kind of just like becoming accepting is really what that is. Accepting and compassionate. Thanks so much for the likes. Welcome. Bill Key says Venus in the 11th in Aquarius. Oh my gosh, I have a video on Venus in Aquarius on my YouTube channel. Basically, like the way that I see Venus in Aquarius, it was so interesting. When I did that video, I like shot straight into my crown because it's like very futuristic. It's a very futuristic way of relationships, okay? It's a very futuristic perception on relationships. It's very detached in like a healthy way. Sometimes people talk about Aquarius as being like detached in like a negative sense. It's not negative, it's just it's healthy. It's kind of like I'm doing me and you can do you. We can gather together sometimes. We also don't have to. Like it's very healthy, you know what I mean? It's a very healthy dynamic, and I also kind of feel like we're heading there in the future. You guys have to look at like 11th house placements and Aquarius placements and actually Uranus aspects as well in your natal charts as like very futuristic. Like that's where we're going. So for Venus and Aquarius, like that's where the collective's going. It's just that you're already there. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. Let's see. New says, could I maybe talk about Saturn and Jupiter in the 8th house? Yes, I actually had someone come through yesterday. They were also asking about Saturn and Jupiter in the 8th house as well. So, okay, it's kind of like, the thing is like the energy is kind of like, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's contradictory in a way, right? Because it's like Jupiter is expanding this area for you, and then Saturn is basically restricting this area for you. So when you have Jupiter in the 8th house, you can be someone who gets an inheritance. You could even, you know, achieve wealth through marriage or long-term commitment. But you having Saturn in there, you could have fears around this. You could be resistant to this. You could be avoidant of this because it's like Saturn in the 8th is going to have issues surrounding intimacy and vulnerability and expressing their emotions and expressing how they feel and all these sorts of things. But it's like, it's interesting because it's like you're meant to master exactly that because then Jupiter expands that. You know what I mean? Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions. I'm just going in order. Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, all in the 1st house. You're here to be a leader. You're here to start something new. I love Uranus in the 1st house people. They are so interesting. They're so funny. They're so like different. Like they're always doing something different. Like this weekend, they could be at a football game, and the next weekend, they could be like volunteering to like put on like a unicorn costume to just like entertain people. I don't know, like things like this. Like they always have some kind of like different type of story. They're very interesting. Like you'll always have fun with a Uranus in the 1st house person. They're always going to have an interesting story to share. With that being said, you're going to be different. You're going to be quirky. Neptune in the 1st house is going to give you the undertone of having a Pisces rising. Uranus in the 1st house gives you the undertone of having an Aquarius rising. And then Saturn in the 1st house gives you the undertone of having a Capricorn rising. Now, this doesn't mean that you are now this rising, okay? It just means you take on those characteristics. So Neptune in the 1st house will give you kind of like a dreamy vibe, okay? And then Saturn in the 1st house is going to make you super hardworking. Erica said, sounds like you're learning to trust yourself. Amazing. That's definitely going to help you a lot, especially in terms of mediumship and the psychic realms. Unity One Love says, what about Lilith and Pisces in the 8th house? You're the 2nd person with Lilith and Pisces. Okay. So when you have Lilith, you kind of have to look at what the sign is in there, because whatever the shadow of that sign is going to be your own dark side that you basically have to integrate, because you don't want that to be in the driver's seat. You want to transmute that energy into something positive, which is a positive aspect of that sign, and then have that be in the driver's seat. Because the thing is, it's like when we have shadow traits and we're unaware that we have them, they're kind of taking over the show for whatever reason. It just is that way. So when you have Lilith and Pisces, you could be someone who might be an escapist, okay? And now this is on a range. You can escape through your mind. You can escape through metaphysics. You can escape through shopping. You can escape through drugs. Stay away from drugs if you have Lilith and Pisces. Any Piscean people or 12th house people, just honestly the best thing to do is just stay away from drugs, because it's like the interest is always going to be there, but it's like then you kind of like love being out of body even more. What's interesting and what's like ironic with Piscean even 12th house energy, it's like they love to be out of body, so they kind of find themselves doing things that basically, the way that I see it is like quote unquote aggravate that psychic muscle more. So they do things that basically like make them go out of body even more. So drugs could be one thing, it could just be meditation, it could be like going off and living like in the Himalayas by yourself, like things like this. Like they're attracted to these things, but they're actually meant to be learning the opposite. You know what I mean? They're meant to learn to merge the physical and the metaphysical together. Okay, that's like Pisces 12th house energy. And then you have it in the 8th house. So Lilith in the 8th house is anything to do with sex, death, rebirth, joint finances, taxes, and the occult. So you could have shadow traits in this area. You can maybe use your sexuality to kind of like bring people to you. You know what I mean? 8th house people are good at that. They're good at kind of like almost like planting the seed energetically in another person's mind. Like let's say like you're out somewhere and you have a crush on someone, like you're out wherever you're out and you're seeing this person for the first time. Somehow the 8th house person does something with their vibe that kind of brings that person to them. Like they're very magnetic. It's magnetic. Let me see what else are you guys saying in here. Thank you. You said you're all over the place and you're also Sag rising. Nice. Let's see what else are you guys saying in here. Am I into Placidus or whole sign? Placidus for me. Maddie says 4 planets in your 10th house of Pisces, Saturn, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. That's definitely working with the public in one way, shape, or form. It just might be a little bit later on in life because of Saturn in there, but it's all in your 10th house. Let me know if you have your midheaven in Pisces too. Okay, so for THUVFDD, you said, what do you think of Moon and Saturn conjunct in the 3rd house? The way that I see Moon and Saturn sometimes is like the parents could have been very much like similar in the way that they raised the child, because the Moon can deal with the mother, Saturn can deal with the father. Like they could have been very much on, you know, the same page. Or you could have a parent that took on both roles, so that could happen. And then that in turn is going to affect your inner masculine energy and your inner feminine energy. With the 3rd house and you have Moon in there, you know, you might be prone to overthinking, so just something to watch out for. It can be a lot of like mental energy where you kind of have to find an outlet. Maybe writing things down, just getting them out of your system would be a good way to get them out of your system. Let's see. Okay, Mr. Devon Higher 2.0, you said, what does it mean when you're an Aries rising and your Mars is in Scorpio in the 8th house? That's aggression going on right there. Yeah, for sure. Because both of them are ruled by Mars. Like Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars. Mars and Scorpio, like, here's what I'll say about Mars and Scorpio. The thing is, Scorpio goes through a lot of different, hey then, Miles Marianne, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the bros. Scorpio goes through a lot of different progressions throughout their life. They go through a lot of death, rebirth, and a lot of the time it also deals with the ego. So when you're younger and you have Mars and Scorpio, like you can be very cutthroat with your words when it comes to arguing and fighting. Definitely a person that you don't want to get into a fight with. Like the other person's always going to lose. And the thing is, like Mars and Scorpio is going to be with their words. You know what I mean? Although sometimes they can also be physically aggressive, I will say that. But overall, it's going to be with the words. So you kind of have to find a way to transmute this energy, because eventually, like, because Mars does deal with motivation, you can figure out something that you want to do and become so obsessed with the outcome that you basically bring it through. That's what I like Mars and Scorpio for. Like, it's very good at, like, you know, picking something that, some kind of goal, something that they're working towards, and like going aggressively towards that. You're still like using that aggressive Mars energy, but like in a positive sense. Sometimes I see passion and like anger as like the same type of vibe. Oh my gosh, yes, and Miles Marin, I know, I decided to come on today too. Hello, how are you doing? I came on a little later, actually. Today I came later than yesterday. I'm having like a live marathon this week. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Your drug as a Pisces, Mercury, Sun in the 12th house was video games. Yes, see, there you go. Yeah. There's always something. There's always some kind of like thing going on with Pisces and 12th house energy. Okay, Erica says, how about Lilith and Chiron conjunct in the 3rd house in Gemini? So when you have Lilith and Chiron conjunct, it's really interesting because it's like the thing that you're healing through, which is Chiron, is also your shadow aspects at the same time. So what you have to do is you have to see what's the shadow of Gemini. Gemini can be flaky, they can be inconsistent, they can make a lot of empty promises. Project, or they can start a project and then drop it because they forgot about it. Like that's very much Gemini in the shadow. Like and they can start a lot of things. Because the thing is, like, Gemini energy is like the jack of all trades, but sometimes the master in none. And for Gemini energy, the best thing to do, at least from what I've observed, is to master one thing and still be doing that thing and then do another thing. So for example, like, Gemini energy would be really good at having multiple jobs going at the same time, you know what I mean, or multiple projects. But as long as one is actually mastered, you know, otherwise if you're doing everything at like 50-60%, like, it's all gonna get dropped. That's kind of like the shadow of Gemini. So that's just something to integrate, because the thing is, Gemini energy can be very beautiful energy. Like I said, they can become very good at doing many things, multitasking, all these sorts of things. So when you're engaging in this world, it's going to be healing for you. And then you have the third house, so it's the written or the spoken word, right? So you might be interested in writing or speaking, but it could hold you back because it's like there's a dark side, right? So sometimes Gemini can fear saying things, because sometimes I notice Gemini energy, like when it's in the shadow, they're people pleasers sometimes, or they care about what people think and things like this. So you have to just kind of overcome that, is really what that is when you've got Lilith going on in there. Yay, I'm glad that that makes sense. What does it mean to have Saturn and Uranus midheaven in the 9th house of Sagittarius? So that's going to be, when you have Uranus aspecting the midheaven, it's going to be unconventional jobs, is really what that is. And it's interesting because you also have Uranus aspecting Saturn, which could mean that, like, you just like rebel against the father. Like, you could just like want to do something completely different, and it could just be like subconsciously, like, you could be engaging in this because you're rebelling against the father. Your midheaven is in Aquarius. Let's go back up to see. Oh yes, you had all the 10th house Pisces placements. I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be in Pisces. So there you go. You confirmed that for me. It's in Aquarius. What else do you guys want to know about your natal charts? Astrology, metaphysics. How do you feel about conjunct ascendants in synastry you and your husband have it? I like when I see that. Like, I like when there's a flow in the ascendants, because it's kind of like, it's your first house, right? And a lot of the time, the first house is going to determine a lot of things about you. You know what I mean? Like, the ascendant sign is really important because then it determines all of the houses, and it's kind of like a nice flow. Fabian says, what does it mean to have Pisces sun in the 6th house with a Virgo rising? Definitely healer. You're going to be interested in the healing world. You could be very intuitive as well. You could be also expecting to be treated like royalty with the Virgo rising energy. Virgo rising people have like past lives where they were royalty. So I know people sometimes say, and they're like, oh, they couldn't have, like, not everyone with a Virgo rising can be royalty. But you know, there's different planes of existence and all these sorts of things. So you like come through with this energy, and it's like the Virgo rising people are kind of like shocked when they're like younger, because it's like, hold on, like, you guys aren't treating me like royalty, like what? You know, so you kind of carry this energy within you. It's like a vibe, you know, it's very like, you know, posh, like it's regal. Oh, you said you want to go to med school. Perfect. There you go. You were in the right field. That Miles Marian said, your Aquarius friend said that Libra woman and Aquarius women are the same, LOL, but you don't agree. She said, because we are not loyal. That's so funny. Yeah, air signs are just going to be different when it comes to relationships and their perception on relationships, especially Aquarius energy. The two are going to have a lot of similarities. Like, you'll get along if you have, you know, one of you being Aquarius and the other one being Libra, but the signs mean different things. You know what I mean? Like, Libra is like the super social butterfly, whereas Aquarius like wants to talk about actually like topics that impact humanity and the world, and like higher level topics, right? Sometimes Libra can keep things surface level and like fun and things like this. So it's not the same. You want to know about me? What's my big three? Okay, guys, let's see if you can guess. If you guys know, if some of you guys know, don't tell the other people. I love this game. Let's see if you guys can guess what my big three are. What does Neptune conjunct Mars in the 10th house of Capricorn mean? So wherever you have Neptune, it's kind of creating like an illusion in that area. So for you, when it comes to motivation, you might not see things clearly. When it comes to your career, you might not see things clearly. So that's kind of what Neptune like aspects do. Jupiter, Pisces, 15-degree midheaven. What would you like to know? What else do you guys want to know about your natal charts? Sun in Cancer, Moon in Gemini, Rising in Scorpio. Mr. Devon Hire says Cancer, Moon, Sag, Sun, and Wine, Earth, Rising may be interesting. I haven't received these combinations before. I've gotten a lot of Gemini, a lot of Scorpio, but no, those are not my big three. Interestingly enough, okay, that's the biggest compliment when you guys tell me that I have Earth placements, because I actually don't have a lot of Earth placements. Although I am Earth dominant when you look at like the dominant signs, which is kind of like contradicting. When looking at birth chart compatibility, is no squares a good sign? I mean, it's nice. You know, it basically makes things flow. How do you feel about North Node in Pisces, 3rd house? You're basically here to be a big fish in a small pond. I can even see that being like a spiritual teacher of some sort, but like in your local community, maybe you're going to be interested in like yoga or something like that. Erica said, are you a Gemini Sun, Scorpio Moon, Aquarius Rising? Oh my gosh, thank you for that combination. You nailed it with the Scorpio Moon. I am a Scorpio Moon. I get Gemini and Aquarius a lot. You thought I was a Capricorn? Oh my gosh, that's the biggest compliment. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am Saturn dominant. I'll tell you guys that much. Okay, I'll tell you guys. You might be surprised. I'm a Libra Sun, Scorpio Moon, Libra Rising. My dominant signs are Scorpio, Capricorn, and Cancer, and then my dominant planets are Pluto, Saturn, and the Moon. Thanks for the likes, you guys. Double Libra. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Do you guys have any other questions about your natal charts or astrology? You're going through your Saturn return. Honestly, all I can say is the only way out is through... What house do you have Saturn in, Megan? Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. You should have said Libra. Every Libra you know is super smart. Thank you. Yes, Libras are all about the mind. You have Saturn in Pisces. You're 29. What house do you have it in, Megan? You have Saturn in the 9th house. Honestly, Saturn in the 9th house isn't too bad overall. Like, out of all the Saturn house placements, Saturn in the 9th house is a little bit smoother. But during this time, you could be changing like your education. You could be doing like some type of different certification. Maybe you're going to change like your career path in that sense. I'm curious to know if you're in nursing or something like that, because that's just what I'm seeing psychically. But yeah, and also you might have like travel restricted during this time or something of that sort. Scorpio Moon in the 2nd house. Does that make you less crazy and intense than an average Scorpio Moon? I have Scorpio Moon in the 1st house. Yeah, in the Placidus system, I have it in the 1st house. So everything is basically like out on my sleeve. Do you know what I mean? Like the Scorpio energy is going to want to hide it. But Moon being in the 1st house, you see everything. So I can't hide things on my face. I can't hide emotions. I can't hide how I feel. That's Moon in the 1st house. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Definitely blessings all around town. Someone's Uranus being in your 6th house. That can be like unconventional health things and healing things. Venus in Leo intercepted in the 8th house. Yes, interceptions are kind of they're like suppressed energy in your natal chart when you have an interception going on. So Venus being in there, you could struggle to, you know, be open when it comes to relationships. You can also struggle to express your creativity because you have Leo in there. Maybe you have a desire of dating like someone of a specific status, but it's like more so hidden because also you have it in the 8th house, so it's like hidden. Venus in the 8th house, I like that in terms of like making money. Blend in so well, no black clothing. Yeah, I know, that's true. That's true. Every Scorpio dominant person that I know wears a lot of black. That's really, really interesting. You have so many interceptions. Thank you. Sun is in the 12th house. You've never realized how much Pisces energy you have in your natal chart. Yeah. Sun in the 12th house is very interesting. It's like when you're meant to be shining, you're kind of like hidden, you know? So it's like a lot of like people instead of like them shining themselves, if that makes sense. North Node Cancer in the 12th house. Wow, that's very much like psychic intuitive lifetime for you when you have North Node Cancer in the 12th. Past life would have been South Node and Capricorn in the 6th house. So you could have been like a grounded type of healer. You could have been someone like a doctor or something of that sort. In this lifetime, it could be more so alternative or like metaphysical, psychic, like this type of world. Aries and Venus in the first house of Aries. Wow, when it comes to relationships, you definitely are going to pick yourself first. You kind of need someone who's going to be your sidekick. You can also be someone who's like in a power couple when you have Venus in the first house, Venus in Aries. On my YouTube channel, I call Venus in Aries the powerhouse. I know people say that Venus falls here, but the thing is, it's very good. Like the way that I see it is like, it's very good when it comes to chasing your goals and these types of things. Also having Venus in the first house gives you the undertone of having a Libra rising. So you could also be very, very good looking. You have your sun in the 12th house. You feel like a ghost spirit all the time. Yes, that's the thing with, oh my gosh, yes, that's the thing with sun in the 12th house. Sometimes you literally feel like people don't see you. And it's like, I think part of it is like because you're so aware of like the metaphysical planes that like, you know, you kind of feel like, yeah, people just don't see you. It's really, really interesting. That's actually such a thing. And you know what I noticed also? Like there's like a term where it's the like, when you were younger, the term is like you were invisibilized, where like your family, usually that happens more so for Mercury in the 12th people, where it's like they kind of feel like they weren't heard because it's like they kind of feel like they're talking into a void. But I see that with 12th house people overall, like they feel sometimes invisible, I think because of the spiritual planes, but then that's kind of somehow how they get the energy in return. I hope that makes sense. I go by Placidus. Thank you. Thanks for answering, Erica. Megan says, if your sun is in the 12th house after your Saturn return, does it go into the first house? Yes, you guys can look up your secondary progressions on Google. You can type in secondary progressions. You can go on AstroSeek. You can go on astro.com, and maybe it already progressed because, actually, no, that was my rising. My rising progressed when I was age 12. So sometimes it depends on the degrees where you have it at. But usually by the time your Saturn return happens, you have either progressed already or you're about to progress into the first house, which is actually a very nice progression. You're welcome. Do you guys have any questions about your natal charts to the people joining? Astrology, metaphysics? You're welcome. What do I feel about Saturn in the 11th house, Gemini? Yes, okay. You're going to be going through a Saturn square now, actually, with the Pisces, Saturn being in Pisces. Also, yes, I don't do one-on-ones. Okay, what I do for my readings is basically it's a 45-minute private video that I send you guys. So you guys can ask me questions before if you have anything you want me to focus on specifically in your natal charts. And then I just need all your information, and then I talk for 45 minutes straight. And then afterwards, if you guys have questions, you can always send me an email as well, but it's a video that I send you guys. Okay, so Saturn in the 11th house in Gemini. So sometimes you might feel like you're not heard with that placement. You're gonna have very much ideas that are ahead of your time. So you're mastering timing when you have Saturn in the 11th house in Gemini. Mastering the timing of when to pitch your ideas and what to say when so the collective can understand you. How do you feel about Jupiter in Gemini in the 6th house? Jupiter in Gemini in the 6th house. So you're going to have to do something that's like written or spoken word related. You could also be interested in healing. I'm curious to know if you're like interested in working with animals or something of that sort. I saw a bet. Let's see. Mackenzie says, what about Neptune in the 11th house? So Neptune's the area that you don't see clearly. So for you, it's going to be 11th house-like things. It can be large groups of people like your friend circles, humanitarian issues. It can be futuristic ideas, things like this where like you might not want to share your ideas, right? Because it's like Neptune's clouding this area for you guys. You guys might spend like more time in your mind versus in actually expressing, you know? Yay, glad that resonated. What do you feel about Capricorn North Node in the 12th house? Oh, interesting. You have the different combination than someone earlier in here. Okay, so you have to look at the South Node to understand the North Node. So for you, you would have had Cancer, South Node in the 6th house. This lifetime for you with the Capricorn North Node in the 12th house, it's like basically you're coming through to clear something, first of all, that you weren't able to complete in a past life. Second of all, it's going to be something to do with Capricorn like things. So maybe it's like wealth, money, building. Maybe you want to start your own business. And it's like you kind of already have the knowledge because of the 12th house. It's just a matter of trusting in yourself and actually honing it. Can you tell if a person is an empath by a natal chart placement? Very interesting. I don't know if it's a different perception on like empaths, clairsentience. Like you can look at someone's natal chart and you can tell if they're psychic. Like you definitely can tell that. You're going to have a lot of water placements. You're going to have a lot of water houses. You could have Neptune in the 3rd house. You could have Uranus in the 3rd house. You could have Moon in the 1st house. Things like this. You love my metaphysical videos on YouTube. What are some interesting things that I've learned? Honestly, I don't even know what to tell you. I think everything is interesting about the metaphysical world. I can't pinpoint one thing. If you guys give me some sort of idea, I can talk about it in terms of the metaphysical world. But yeah, I like everything. In terms of the metaphysical world, this is because I look at everything from a metaphysical lens, right? So I'm always thinking, and I'm like, how did this manifest metaphysically? Because it's important to understand that everything, before it hits the physical plane, it's manifesting in the spiritual plane, right? It always starts out as a thought, and then you add emotions, and then the emotional energy kind of gains momentum, and then eventually it starts getting into the physical plane. So it's like by the time something's already hit the physical plane, it's already been manifesting for a while in the metaphysical plane and the spiritual plane. So I look at everything from that lens, right? So when something manifests, I'm like, okay, how did this manifest metaphysically? So literally anything happening in the world, I'm like, how did that manifest metaphysically? What was happening prior to that manifesting, right? And this goes for everything. This goes for illnesses in the body. It goes for everything. Everything is manifesting metaphysically before it manifests physically. There's a lag. Let's see. I'm just going back up. Sun and Saturn and Leo in the 9th house. Maybe you had a father that suppressed your creativity. Sun and Saturn both deal with Leo. You could have had a narcissistic father with that as well. Someone who didn't let you shine. Saturn in the 9th house. Saturn in the 9th house could restrict the area of education for you, or higher education, or like you might not know what you want to do in terms of school until later, like things like this. It can also restrict the area of travel. Sometimes people who have Saturn in the 9th house could have fears surrounding travel from like a young age, even if nothing happened. Like they could just have some sort of fears. I'm glad that it resonates. Yay. You never worked with animals, but you used to be a nurse. Left for accounting. Oh, interesting. Well, I'm glad that that healing energy is in there. Let's see. North Node is in Aries, and so is your IC. Isn't that contradictory? No, it's not contradictory. What I will say for that, though, is like for your life purpose, you're really going to have to integrate lessons surrounding the home. And when you have Aries on the IC, it could have been like a very like father masculine dominated type of home. With Aries on the IC, like there's always like a subconscious like battle for who's going to be the head of the house. And then when you have your own house, you want to be the head of your own house. So that's the thing. And sometimes like something that took place maybe with the father in the home, because it is Aries, and like the fire signs usually do deal with the father. If it's not the father, it's going to be the dominant masculine role in your life. But something that took place with this person or belief system or whatever could be holding you back from your North Node, which is your purpose in this lifetime. Let's see. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. Do you sometimes be like people are watching you and do you sometimes be like watching people around you and try to guess their signs? Yes, absolutely. Even if people are talking to me, as soon as people are talking to me, I'm already creating like a repertoire. Like, okay, this is this is that. This is what this means. Anytime I'm watching anything, even if I'm watching like a reality TV show or whatever, it's good to do that. Like if you guys are interested in astrology, like you guys can just do that for yourselves, because it's like you create kind of like an energetic repertoire of like, this is how this type of combination behaves. This is how that type of combination behaves. And yeah, you can expand it through that, like your knowledge. How does natal moon separating from a conjunction to Mars play out? What do you mean separating? Erica says, what does it mean to have a Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node? It's a more grounded lifetime for you, and it's about personal finances, and it's about belief systems. Okay, so Taurus is all about beliefs and values that you basically have when you're growing up, right? So it's like, you know, sometimes Taurus can have very like strict, it's not strict in terms of like a strict upbringing. It's just like they can just have like very like firm beliefs. Like, this is my belief, and like nothing can budge you from that, especially because Taurus can sometimes be with like the blinders on energetically. So that's kind of like the Taurus energy. So in this lifetime, it's more so grounded, okay? It's figuring out practical ways to build towards something, to build towards some sort of goal. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Megan says your South Node and Sun are in Gemini 12th house. That's past life karma that you're basically bringing through in this lifetime in terms of your ego. So sometimes I see 12th house Sun as like in a past life they didn't get to complete something they wanted to complete. Because it's like 12th house Sun, the way that I see it sometimes is like they're coming through to close out a cycle in terms of their ego, right? So in a past life, for whatever reason, maybe there was something that you wanted to do and you weren't able to do it, especially for you because it's conjuncting your South Node, because South Node is a past life. So it could be that. And then you have Gemini in there. So maybe in a past life, who knows, maybe you had some sort of message that you wanted to communicate and you were able to communicate it for whatever reason. It could have been super ahead of your time. And boom, now you're coming through in this lifetime with Sag, North Node, and it's in the 6th house. So you're like delivering the message on like a more grounded scale. Hey, Caitlin, what's going on? I'm just going back up. I will get to your question. You said your mom was strict. You always joked that you had a ball and chain growing up. Oh my gosh. See, it's interesting because even if like it comes through what I'm talking, it's like still resonating because it's like everything like, okay, for people who are interested in like the psychic world, you kind of just have to say like whatever's coming through because it's like, there's a reason that it's coming through. You know what I mean? So that's interesting that resonates. Okay. What about a chart with a lot of oppositions? That's a lot of like, you know, energy of being pulled on two sides, a lot of like conflicting energy where it's like one planet wants to do this, the other planet wants to do that, and then sometimes nothing gets done when you have like conflicting energy taking place. You're amazing. Thank you. You're amazing. Okay, let's see what else you guys say in here. Venus 10th house in Libra, no major aspects to Venus. Yes, Venus in the 10th house can be a wealth placement. It can also be a fame placement sometimes depending on the rest of your natal chart, but overall it's wealth. So you'll be able to bring through that money, but with Libra being in there, it's gonna have to be through like, you know, you being fair, you being diplomatic. It can be fashion, it can be beauty, it can be all these sorts of things. No worries, thank you. I'm sending you guys the good vibes too. I'm appreciating the good vibes and I'm sending them right back to you guys. Thank you so much. Do you believe in evil eye? You have a Pisces rising and you're always feel, yes, evil eye is very real. It's so interesting. I just talked about this in my video recently where I talked about like metaphysical business tips and I talked about evil eye in there. Honestly, you guys, like if I was anyone, like obviously everyone can do whatever they want, but I wouldn't share my plans. Like I was actually saying this to my family recently. Like I was like, honestly, if I didn't have to say anything to anyone about what I'm doing, I would never say it, right? Because it's like when you're doing something, let's say you're doing a project or you have some sort of goal or you have some sort of thing in mind, it's like if you say it, sometimes other people can energetically interfere with you. Do you know what I mean? Like evil eye is very real. So in terms of like your friends and like all these sorts of like things, it's like I would just be weary about sharing things with people because it's like people, the way that it is, unfortunately, at least for now on this earth plane, like people are good while you guys are at the same level, but if you're trying to raise a little bit above them, they might feel abandoned. They're like, no, come back down, you know? So yes, it's very real. What about posting on social media? Yes. Okay, that's another thing. I definitely don't post things until they're done. Even if I'm traveling somewhere, I never post pictures until I'm back. I never post things while I'm doing it because it's like, you might as well just be prepared to just like bring everyone on the trip with you. And it's like, sometimes it's not even intentional, you know, people's vibes, but it's like, you will feel it. Like you, especially if you're someone who is clairsentient or psychic or like sensitive energetically, you are going to feel it. It starts to feel like a cloud. That's what it is when you have a lot of energy attaching to you. It's really true. So in terms of social media, like I totally get where you're coming from. You might have to be very selective about what you post. Now, what you guys can do is knowing this, what you guys can do, okay, I'm going to teach you guys something. You guys heard it here first. I don't know if people have said this before, but what you guys can do is like, there's something called sigils, right? So there's sigil, basically what a sigil is like it's something that's charged with energy, and then as many people that like look at the sigil basically are charging that thing with more energy, right? So for example, you have like family crests, or you have like band logos, all these things are sigils. So what you guys can do is you guys can create your own sigil, right? in one way, shape, or form, even if it's something small, and you guys can post that in your picture, so when everyone's attaching their energy, they can attach it to that, and what you kind of put energetically into the sigil, it can be something that you guys are trying to manifest. I hope that makes sense, okay? I hope you guys are following. So you guys can do that to basically manifest, bring things through, and basically take advantage of that evil eye type of energy. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Okay, Aquarius midheaven in the 8th house. I've never seen the midheaven in the 8th house. Usually I see it in the 10th house, and sometimes in another one of the systems, they have it in the 9th house. Let's see. Your mom taught you to never say anything until it's done. Yes, people's energy can interfere. It's true. It really, really is true. Yeah, it's true. People's energy can very much interfere. And like what people don't understand, again, because it's a very physical plane, people don't understand that it's like, you know, that we're all very much telepathic. So they can telepathically block you. Like just with their thoughts, they can be like, oh, well, why is that? Like if someone feels like, oh, well, why do you have that and I don't? Or why are you doing that? Or like, you want to do that? And like, I'm not doing that, like whatever it is, anything that's scarcity, anything that's lack, and anything that's rooted in wounding, right? It can interfere. It's absolutely true. Let's see, what else she's saying. You still want to express yourself, but there's always that fear. I mean, all I can say is like, you got to break through the fear. If it's a calling, it's a calling. And you know, you could just be mindful about what you post. You don't have to have everyone in your business. Like these days with social media, it's become very normalized to just like have like no privacy anymore. Do you know what I mean? And it's like everyone sharing everything. Like it's interesting because it's gone into like the extreme. I feel like what tends to happen, like especially when the collective is healing, they go through extremes. So for example, back in the day, there was like a lack of authenticity, right? Especially with Instagram and all these sorts of things. So because it went from that extreme of the pendulum, now everyone's being super authentic or trying to be super authentic and they're sharing everything. But it's like when you're sharing everything, everyone's attaching themselves into your business. And then sometimes like when I stumble upon people's lives, they say things where they're like, oh my gosh, like I have so much anxiety in my head. I'm like, that's coming from all these people's energy attaching to you because you're energetically porous. Do you know what I mean? You're opening up your energy field. So it's like, if you're going to share something, you're going to have to be very like aware that, again, other people's energy is going to attach to that is really what that is. I'm so happy that my content resonates. I'm just going back up. Okay, that's so interesting. So this is for Mr. Debenhire. You said Venus in Aquarius in the 11th. What to say when astrologers keep saying that you're into polygamy when you're not? I think, okay, it's so funny. I was just thinking about this today. I think the whole reason they say that is because it's something that's like unconventional. Like, because Aquarius energy, Uranus energy is like unconventional energy, right? So because it's unconventional energy, they automatically think about, okay, what's the most unconventional thing that's away from like a monogamous relationship? And I guess they think about polygamy. It can be that, but it doesn't have to be that. The way that I see Venus in Aquarius, I see it as futuristic. I kind of see it in the way that like we're heading as a collective, like we're all going there. I just see Venus and Aquarius people to be there already. I see it very healthy, you know, where it's like one person's doing their thing, the other person's doing their thing, and like everyone's kind of like, you know, has their own individuality, has their own personality. I don't know, that's how I see it. Let's see, I'm just going back up. Mars slash Mercury in Libra, both in the 10th house. What do I think? Working with the public, sharing with the public, all about, you know, the long-term goals, gains, financial gains, you're elevating your status. Mercury in Libra is very fair in terms of their thinking. Sometimes they can see things from both sides, like too much. If they like get too much into their head, they can like not really have a stance on a you know, on like an issue, because it's like, okay, I get where this person's coming from, but I also get where this person's coming from. How should you take care of your psychic abilities? Okay, I love this question. So basically what you guys can do is spend time on your own to learn your own energy. That's the first thing, right? You have things where people talk about it. I even said this in one of my videos recently where it was like, take care of your diet and, you know, cleanse your diet and don't drink certain substances and all these sorts of things. The way that I see it is like, when you're first honing in to your psychic abilities, you can be on like a strict regime, right? Where it's like, maybe you're just eating vegetarian or maybe you're just eating vegan or whatever. But the thing is, it's like, I don't think that there's a rule, okay? I think it's from person to person. I think it really depends on what your personal gifts are, these types of things, right? So that's the first thing. You want to learn your own energy first. And then after you learn your own energy, it's going to be easier to know, like, okay, right now I'm being very porous, I'm being very open. Also, because you're asking how to take care of your psychic abilities, probably best not to do any sort of drugs, even like smoking grass, like things like this, because all of that opens you up. You know what I mean? It opens you up even more, and then other energies can latch on, and then it kind of creates like this, like, the way that I see it is like, you know, when wires start crossing on phones and you kind of start getting like a static, that's what happens. You want to have a clear energy, right? And you can kind of do this daily. Like daily, you can cleanse your energy. You can meditate, you can go on walks, you can do walking meditations, you can take baths, you can take self baths, you can cleanse your space. Like there's so many different things that you could do, but kind of like, just like anything, right? It's like brushing your teeth, you know? You also want to daily cleanse your energy as well, and however that manifests for you. Whoops, I accidentally sent an invite to someone, so hopefully they don't accept it for like a live collaboration. Okay, Francesca says, so this is for Rosanna. Francesca, you said this 29 degrees Sagittarius rising change its usual meaning. You're just kind of like at the final, you know, point of that sign, which could be the hardest point. 0 degrees and 29 degrees are the most challenging points of that particular sign. You kind of have to look at the shadow of Sagittarius. What's the shadow of Sagittarius? They can be, you know, kind of just like having fun all the time and maybe not being serious, or they can become too dogmatic, or they can, like, you know, pick up some sort of belief system and just stick to that. They can also be very much like, because they're mutable, they can have a belief system this week and then they can have another belief system next week. Like that's very much Sag, right? Like Sag energy, right? When it's in the shadow. So that's the 29th degree. Those are just things to watch out for, integrate, all these sorts of things. Let's see. Thanks for the likes and the follows, you guys. You said, this is Mr. Debenhire, you said you interpret it as someone who may date many people before they settle on a person. Yes, that can definitely take place. A says, how do you know? How about if your clairaudience / psychic specifically when you drink, is that good or bad? It just psychically opens you up. So anytime you're engaging in any sort of substances, whether it's mind altering substances or whether it's alcohol or whatever it is, it's opening you up even more. That's important to understand. So it's like you're already psychic on your own. So you just kind of have to figure out a way to hone that when you're sober, is really what it is. Mr. Debenhire says, because we are players, it's because we are more intellectually selective. I never thought of Venus in Aquarius as players. I don't feel that with that energy at all. Can I tell you more about your stellium in the 8th house? Oh my gosh, that is so interesting. We had someone in here earlier as well. Okay, 8th house stellium is going to be all things to do with the mediumship, you know, metaphysical planes, all these types of things. You're going to be psychic. You could be clairsentient. You could be an empath as well. These types of things. I see clairsentience, empath, and mediumship ability as like different types of abilities. Psychically, it's not the same. I feel like people kind of group them all together, but they're not all the same. And then you said you have Pisces, Mercury, Venus, Uranus, and Aquarius. Wow, all of that is going on in the 8th house. So you're going to be very unconventional as a person, very different, very much outside of the box. 8th house, though, what I will say is be very careful when it comes to money and like going after fast money, because it's like sometimes 8th house, because they know that they can work with the energy of money, they don't actually work hard, which is fine, but it's like as long as you're not getting yourself into certain situations, because 8th house can also deal with debts. It can also deal with other people's resources and things like this. Sometimes 8th house people, like when they're in the shadow, they can kind of like figure out a way to basically use other people's resources to elevate their own. So just watching out for that. Let's see, what are you guys saying in here? Deb on air. Okay. Let's see. Thanks so much for the compliment. Oh, that was you? Okay, I'm glad you didn't. Let's see. Erica says, do you know what it means to have vertex? Yes, in the Virgo in the 7th house. Okay. Vertex is like a newer discovery in astrology. When I tap into it, it feels very fresh, like energetically. Like it feels kind of like, I think a lot of people haven't attached their energy to vertex yet. So when I tap into it, it feels very like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, you know when something's new and it just doesn't have like any density, like it's fresh. Anyways, that's how I feel about vertex. But anyways, vertex are fated events, okay? that they say that you can't avoid that change the course of your life forever. So the house is going to tell you what type of person or group of people it's going to be, and then the sign can give you insight as to what type of event this is going to be. So the 7th house is going to be your romantic partners, it can be your friends, it can be your enemies, it can be just all interpersonal relationships. So through one of these people, you're now going to have a Virgo-like event, okay? So that being said, it can be like a healing event, or maybe you go to, I don't know, like a hospital, or maybe you go to the veterinarian or whatever it is, and you bump into one of your friends, and your friends kind of, you know, gives you an idea for an event. You go to the event and your life changes forever. Like that's kind of the idea with Vertex. Also, Virgo can be your day-to-day stuff. So it can be maybe at work, right? You go to work and one of your colleagues tells you something and all these types of things. So that's kind of the idea. What else are you guys saying in here? With the fast money, yes, the 8th house people can very much get sucked into pyramid schemes. Yes, be very, very wary, you guys, when you got 8th house or scorpionic energy. They can also get sold a dream. Like, you know, like on YouTube, like those ads that pop up and they're like, I discovered this new way to make $1,000 a month, or $1,000 a week, or $10,000 a month. It's always $10,000 a month. Have you guys noticed in those ads? They're always somehow making $10,000 a month. So anyways, the 8th house scorpionic person can get sucked into that. 4th house stellium, you are clearing karma through the home. When you got a 4th house stellium, you're going to be caring, you're going to be nurturing. You could also have orphan past lives. Maybe it's coming through to tell you. Let's see. As in here to fortune. So Alexandra says you have Sun and Gemini. Thanks so much for the likes, guys. Sun and Gemini, 29 degrees, and also Chiron and Gemini, both in the 7th house. What is my opinion? Okay, 29 degree, you have to look at the shadow of that sign. So what's the shadow of Gemini? It can be flaky, they can not finish their projects, they can make a lot of promises, they can kind of overcommit to things. They can get distracted very easily. They're gonna have like 50 tabs open on their computers, and they're gonna like start researching this thing about like how to make this recipe, and before you know it, like it's like 10 p.m. they haven't even made like their dinner, and now they're like Googling about like, I don't know, something that's going on in like a different country, like whatever it is, right? Like they're always like researching, right? So because of this, you're gonna be like scattered, right? Because it's at the 29th degree. So just honing this energy in is really what that is, right? When you got that 29th degree, just being aware is all awareness at the end of the day. Oh my gosh, thanks so much for the likes, guys. Yes, I do readings. Okay, my readings are 45-minute readings that I send you where I talk for 45 minutes straight. It's a video link that I send you, and you can watch it as many times as you like. You can send it to your mom, you can send it to your grandma, everybody can watch it, the whole family. You guys can also ask me questions before the reading. You guys can ask me questions after the reading. So you can definitely check it out. It's in my bio on TikTok, it's under the shop, or if you're watching the replay on YouTube, it's going to be in the description box below, and it's going to be once again in the shop. And it's going to be a window that pops up. It's an email, and you guys send me the email and we go from there. Let's see what else you guys think in here. It's 152 USD. Thanks, Erica. I don't know if you're still here, but thanks for being here. I'm just going back up. Thanks, FYP girl. Oh my gosh, I love the rose that you sent me. And thanks for the likes, you guys. Okay, where was I? Can you be a good actress with Pluto, Chiron, Vertex in your 5th house? I have to look at your entire chart to see what's going on with that. But the 5th house energy, like, you'll definitely be interested in being creative and expressing yourself creatively. Can you let me know what you have your moon or your rising in? You feel like those are bad placements. They're not bad, you're just healing through your creative fields is really what that is. Pluto in the 5th, I mean, I can see that. Like, it's kind of like that scorpionic energy where it's like you're expressing your vulnerability through your creativity. Like, I can see that taking place. Let's see what else you guys seeing in here. I'm just going back up. I'm just going in order. You're welcome. Pluto in Aquarius, how is it going to affect you? You are a Leo rising. You're going to go through a lot of changes in terms of your identity, yourself, your ego. Your Gemini moon, Cancer rising, Pisces sun. You've been acting since you were young. I can see that, like that. Okay, the thing is, like, water energy is very good at these artistic types of endeavors, right? Because they need an outlet for their emotions. The thing is, you have to look at like what a good actor or actress is, right? A good actor or actress learns people, and they learn their emotions, right? They learn how to read people and how people react, and they're able to feel it, right? So you're going to be empathetic, and you have to kind of fit yourself into that particular situation and then express it on yourself, right? That's what acting is, right? So it's interesting because you will see actors or actresses with water energy. You'll see them with a combination. You can have Gemini moon in there as well. Let's see. Leo moon, Sag sun, Scorpio rising. What else are you guys saying in here? What does it mean to have Neptune first degree in Aquarius? You're like at the very beginning of Aquarius. Thanks for the likes, you guys. What could having Venus in the 8th house in Aries suggest? Venus in the 8th house can be a little bit of a challenge. You might be possessive when it comes to relationships. You definitely are going to have to find someone where it's like you guys are like in a serious type of relationship, you know? Like it's not going to be a placement that wants to date around. Like Venus in the 8th house wants to hold on, right? They want to hold on to their partners. They basically want the person also themselves. Now with that being said, you also kind of have to allow the person to have space. And then you have Venus in Aries, which is like, it's an interesting combination because it's like Aries quote unquote falls, right? When it's in Venus. But what I will say is like that particular placement in terms of money is going to be very good, in terms of career, in terms of ambition, like all these sorts of things. Like you'll be very good at like anchoring the things that you want. No worries. Thanks for being here, Mr. Debonair. When someone thinks of something and it happens right away, is that psychic energy or manifesting it? Oh, that's a very good question. That's kind of like a chicken or the egg question. Which came first? I would say like it depends on the situation. Like, is it like a situation where you thought of someone and then they called you? What do you think of having a Jupiter and Saturn in Taurus with Mars and Aries all in the 10th house? That's so interesting. Recently, in my past few lives, there's been a lot of people with Jupiter and Saturn conjunctions. There's always kind of like a theme, and even today, there's been a lot of you guys. So the thing is, like Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions are a little bit of a struggle because it's like Jupiter's supposed to be expanding the area and then Saturn's restricting the area. So it's like, you kind of feel like sometimes maybe you go one step forward, 2 steps back. But what I will say for Saturn energy is like, it kind of stabilizes over time is really what that is. Like that's very much Saturn energy. Like over time, you will master that area. So when you have Taurus in there, right? In the 10th house, it's all about elevating your status. It's all about working towards something. It's interesting because you asked about acting. You have all that 10th house energy going on. That's also very much about acting, being in the public eye, right? So Saturn, though, Saturn's over an extended period of time. That's just something important to keep in mind. And then Mars and Aries, you could be explosive when it comes to conflict. But I like Mars and Aries. Like Mars and Aries is going to be very much like a go-getter. What I will suggest for Mars and Aries, though, is to actually actively continue at something. You know what I mean? Because sometimes Aries drops projects. Yay, I'm glad that it's resonating. Any advice for your Aquarius Neptune squaring your Scorpio ascendant? First thought was like, that's very fixed energetically. Like you could be very fixed in terms of your ways of being. I'm trying to think. Aquarius Neptune squaring your Scorpio ascendant. The thing is like Scorpio energy, both energies can have an ego. That's the thing with the fixed signs. Like all fixed energy can have an ego. So it's like there could be something that you don't see clearly, right? When it comes to the self, or when it comes to expressing, again, that first house energy, which is all to do with the self. Let's see. Caitlin says, Pisces sun, Cancer rising, Virgo moon. What are my thoughts? Very much healing vibes in there. I like Virgo moon. Virgo moon is very psychic. Okay, they're very good at grounding psychic information. You could be psychic yourself. Cancer rising, what I will suggest for Cancer rising is to, if you're looking for a long-term partner or a long-term commitment, to wait until after your Saturn return, okay, before Cancer rising. Cancer rising tends to get into serious relationships when they're young, and then, you know, they're in long-term relationships, and then by the time their Saturn return comes, they could like separate from that person. So if you're looking for like a forever type of person, it's just a suggestion. You have free will at the end of the day, so you can do whatever you want. But my suggestion for that is to wait until after your Saturn return. And then Virgo moon, even Cancer rising. I've seen a lot of nurses have Cancer rising, so I'm interested to know if you're like interested in like the health and healing industry. Thanks for the likes, you guys. Part of fortune in Libra in the third house. Yes, I can tell you more about that placement. So wherever you guys have part of fortune, that area is the area that you guys are anchoring abundance through, right? It's going to be through whatever that sign means. So for you, the third house is the written or the spoken word. So anytime you engage in third house like activities, you can bring through abundance, luck, money, these types of things, right? Libra is, once again, anytime you're being fair, it could be through makeup, it can be through art, it can be through interior design, it can be through law, it can be through justice, any Libra-like type things. You work with children. There you go. That's perfect. Very much Cancer rising vibes. What about having kids? You're scared. Should you wait after your Saturn return too? You're a Cancer rising. I would have to look at your entire natal chart. But yeah, Cancer rising, like Cancer rising, every Cancer rising individual that I know has gotten into long-term relationships when they were young. And especially if you have Saturn in the 7th. Like if you're Cancer rising and you have Saturn in the 7th, especially for you, just wait until after your Saturn return. But yeah, for kids, I would have to look to see what's going on maybe with the 5th house. All right, I'm going to answer one more question and I'm going to sign off. So let me know if you guys have any more questions. Book a reading with me. Oh, you said you have Saturn in the 7th? Yes. Okay, what I'm going to say for Saturn in the 7th? Yes, absolutely. Oh, you said you have Neptune in the 7th. Okay, good. Never mind then. Neptune in the 7th, but that's illusions around relationships when you have Neptune in the 7th. So there's something that you might not see clearly going on in there. Neptune in the 7th house, ruled by Capricorn. Yeah, that's the thing, because, okay, the whole reason Cancer rising gets into serious relationships when they're young is because their descendant, which is your 7th house, is the sign of Capricorn, right? So Capricorn is all about tradition. It's all about being traditional. So they're looking for traditional types of people. So from a young age, they're going to be very serious in this area when it comes to relationships, when it comes to relationships. They could even be looking for like traditional partners or traditional roles, like these types of things when you have Capricorn in the 7th house. So that's why I'm saying that basically for the, yeah, you said, yeah, it's worse. Yeah, so it's Cancer rising because you have Capricorn in the 7th, or if you have Saturn in the 7th house, definitely wait until your Saturn return, or at least wait until your Saturn return to get married is my suggestion for that. All right, you guys, I'm going to sign off. I hope you guys enjoyed the live. Make sure you guys check out my YouTube channel. It's called Barbara Talks. I hope you guys all have a beautiful rest of your day.